Welcome back in, folks. JE Live once again. I have my buddy Blaine Grisak of Downtown Rams, the managing editor of DowntownRams.com, where you can find all your Downtown Rams podcasts. You can find Rams content. You can find NFL Draft. You can find everything there pretty much. So he's killing it. Welcome, Blaine. Thank you so much for being in here.
Thanks for having me, Jake. Look forward to talking possibly the biggest Rams game of the year this week on the show.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much to talk about, and I mean, I think I've talked so much about it. So this is gonna be like your show. I'm gonna ask you your thoughts. I'll throw mine in, but man, I'm talked out over the last bunch of days. So I mean, let's just discuss. I mean, first and foremost, what are your thoughts on the way the Rams were? I mean, obviously they fell off, and we were texting throughout the game. They were up 27-3. They blow the lead. The Bucks tie it up. What are your thoughts on the Rams coming back and winning that game? Is it more, you're happy they did that, or is that more of a concern going into the Niners game?
I'm really happy that they did that. I'm not concerned. I mean, going forward, I don't think you can expect Cam Akers to fumble twice, let alone in a game-ending situation like that. Um, Cooper Kupp's not going to fumble. He doesn't fumble ever, so like you don't have to be concerned about that. A bad snap doesn't happen all that often. So I kind of feel like how the Bucks got back into the game was kind of fluky. At the end of the day, Rams are up 27-3 against the defending Super Bowl champions. Um, at home, nonetheless. Like Tom Brady, I think was 9-1 or something in his last 10 divisional round playoff games. Um, and then just how they did it, 43 seconds left on the clock. They had one timeout, had to use it right away because Stafford got sacked. And just to get down the field and field range in 35 seconds with no timeout, I think was just really impressive. I mean, it would have been easy to say, oh, shoot, Tom Brady, this is Tom Brady. This is the Buccaneers. We're going to lose this game. And instead, no, I mean, McVay had confidence they were going to win on that drive. Stafford has the confidence to throw that ball to Cooper Kupp and get the guy set to spike it and stop the clock. So I was really impressed with their win.
Yeah, I mean, I was as well. I think just it's survive in advance. We talked about the analogy with March Madness, over text. I mean, it doesn't matter how much those points, those excess points that you get last week, they don't count this week. So, I'm not too worried about it. And I think against the Niners, I mean, if it happens again, that's not happening again. If they go up 27-3, Garoppolo's not bringing them back in the game. I think that's definitely a script that the Rams want to, put out there. So now kind of going in this game, if you could tell me, what are your three biggest keys to victory, and what are your three biggest keys for victory on the other side for the 49ers?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to the Rams, especially against the 49ers, I think it comes down to three things. And I think we all know those three things. You can talk about matchups, Jalen Ramsey versus Deebo Samuel, um, Andrew Whitworth versus Nick Bosa or whatever. You can talk about those matchups all day, but I think it comes down to three things. It comes down to how the Rams offensive line plays against the 49ers defensive line. In that second half in week 18, the Rams offensive line got blown up. And Stafford didn't have any time. There were no holes in the run game whatsoever. They were essentially running into a brick wall. So I think it's going to depend on how David Edwards, Brian Allen, and Austin Corbett play on that interior. And then I think it comes down to tackling. I mean, the Rams seem to be a really good tackling team, and then they play the 49ers and they're missing tackles left and right and can't seem to tackle. And that was also, I think, a difference in that second half is, the Rams are up 17-3 and the 49ers come out the second half really physical and running the ball and daring the Rams to tackle them, and the Rams back seven couldn't. And then
Yeah.
I think it comes down to Stafford continuing to play a clean game. I mean, I'm okay with an interception as long as it's not like a pick six or anything. Like I'm fine with an interception. It's going to happen. He's played two clean games. Like I would almost expect an interception to happen in this week, especially against a really good 49ers defense. But he can't make the he can't throw the interception. I guess as long as he's played clean and efficient, the Rams should win this game.
No, I agree with you. I definitely think the Rams should win the game. Now on the 49ers side of the ball, I mean, I would make the argument, obviously we've talked about it, with Deebo Samuel, what he can do and how crazy he is, how explosive he is, how annoying he is. But he breaks so many tackles, he makes a man miss. He's built like a running back. That's their archetype. I mean, we've discussed this before in great detail. Kyle Shanahan's not going out there going after a Calvin Johnson. He's not about to go after a 6'5" guy that can high point the football. That's not their game. They want to make sure that they get guys that are catered to Jimmy Garoppolo, guys that win yards after the catch performance. And when you have Debo and you have Brandon Ayuk that are both filled out, they're stocky guys, hard to bring down, built like running backs. That is going to help you. And so in this game, I just have to ask your thoughts on looking at Debo, but is there anybody else that could, impact the game the way that Debo can?
Um, I think you look at that final drive that the 49ers had in Week 18. Juwan Jennings came up with some huge catches, including I think he had the touchdown at the end. He's been playing really well. He's been a really nice kind of 2A 2B there with Brandon Ayuk. So I think he's someone that kind of gets lost, but he's someone you have to keep an eye on. And then obviously you can't focus all on Debo and forget about George Kittle. I mean, George Kittle's probably a top 3, top 2 tight end in the NFL when he's healthy. And then yeah, so I think those are two guys that Rams have to keep an eye on outside of Debo.
Yeah, don't mind me looking up. I just see a giant spider crawling above my
Oh
my
no,
screen. I'm
oh
like,
no.
oh my god! Like you're scared more of my backdrop over here with Michael Myers. I'm scared of that spider right there. I mean, you're
Yeah.
freaking kidding me right now. Um, Not getting too far off it, but obviously. So you have the Rams, you have the 49ers, you have a team that's won 6 straight times, you have a team that's lost 6 straight times. I mean, how big of a deal do you make it that it is the playoffs and you can't expect the same type of playing style and the way things ended? You can't expect it to go the same way just because they lost 6 straight regular season games.
No, and listen, I mean, the 49ers have won 6 straight, but let's not act like all those games have been blowouts. I mean, the 49ers have won, I think, 3 of those on the last play of the game. I think 2019 they won 34-31 on a Robbie Gold field goal at the end. Last year they won in overtime 23-20, and then um, and then in week 18, they end up winning in overtime on a Stafford interception. They kind of that does give them wins. So it's not like they're getting blown out in these games. They're right there. They just need to find a way to close these things out and get over the hump. And yeah, it's the playoffs. And the 49ers, I think it can't be understated. This will be their fourth straight road game. And former Rams beat writer Nick Wagoner tweeted out the other day that if the 49ers win, they'd be the first team since 1966 to win 4 straight road games. So it's not an easy thing to do. And I mean, the Rams are going to be at home, which is always an advantage in the championship rounds of the playoffs. So and then I think they have that monkey on their back, and they're kind of tired of hearing about, they've lost 6 straight to the 49ers. You've lost 6 straight to the 49ers. Shanahan's in your head. I think they're tired of hearing all this. Kind of like they were tired of hearing about how the Cardinals had beat them in week 4 earlier in the year. So I think they're ready to get the monkey off their back and get the win.
No, I agree with you. And I think when you look at the issues the Rams had, I mean, I don't know I think we talked about it, but the November game, losing 31-10, to me, you throw that in the garbage. That was not Rams football. You lose Robert Woods on Friday, and then you find out Saturday it's a torn ACL, so he's done for the year. Finding out Saturday and already installing your game plan for the Monday Night Football game, that's just not enough time. And what he does, rub routes as a blocker, as a receiver, I mean, even as a runner, it's just invaluable. And so you take him out there and all of a sudden you're throwing 7th rounder Ben Skoranek, who, I mean, he's credit to him. He's done a great job of getting in the rotation. It's honestly incredible what he's done as a 7th rounder, but keep in mind, he started the season injured. So he was behind the 8 ball on that. And then you have Odell, who, he gets there and he doesn't know anything because he just got there, and it's like, yeah, Odell, we're gonna ask you to be the number 3 receiver today. I know you don't have a practice under your belt. I know you don't know the playbook at all, but just go out there and see what you can do. And I just feel like it was one of those games where nothing was going to go right because it started with the offense. They couldn't get any sort of form of any semblance of a balanced offense, and then it trickled down to the defense, and they couldn't stop them. So then you look at the second game, and I thought you saw some good things. You saw that, yes, they gave up those chunk runs still. The Rams still do that, but in the grand scheme of things, I still think they were fine against the run, and they were good enough to win that game, as we know. Now, game number 3, there's a chance Sebastian Joseph Day is back. They've already made the adjustments they did in Week 18. I think this is a different ball game, and if they can stop the run of the San Francisco 49ers, I don't know how the 49ers win this game.
Yeah, and listen, I think like as much as we look at that Week 18 game, and that you can definitely, I think you take that more into the picture more than Week 10, that's for sure. Like, given exactly what you just said, but I mean, Week 18, like I know he didn't have a great game last week, but Cam Akers, that was his first game back, and they were just kind of working him in. I mean, as much as I don't expect the Rams to have a lot of success on the ground in this game, Cam Akers has been very good as a wide receiver. Over since he's been back, and that's something that he adds to the Rams backfield that, quite honestly, like Sony Michel doesn't. I mean, there was a 3rd and 2 early in the game against the Bucks where Michel catches, or not Michel, Akers is out wide and catches a screen pass and makes the first guy miss and gets upfield and gets the first down. And quite honestly, that's not a play I don't think Sony Michel makes. He just is. Akers is so dynamic, and have him on the field more in a full-time role, a lot more in a full-time role than he was in Week 18. I think adds another dimension to the Rams' offense that the 49ers are going to have to account for.
No, I agree with you there. I think that Sony Michel offers that short running game. We talked about his ability, at the goal line. I think will be needed because for whatever reason Cam has struggled at the goal line. But I mean, no doubt about it, Cam Akers is the best receiving back on this team. It is not close. Darrell Henderson is pretty good, but Cam Akers is the best. And so I do think both of those guys will be utilized. Now, my concern, aside from Debo, my biggest concern is what we've seen as a theme throughout the postseason. Teams that tend to get more interior pressure up the middle, not allowing quarterbacks to step up in the pocket and have to sidestep them and run into whoever the edge defender is. Those teams have lost. They've had hard times getting things going. You look at Dak Prescott with DJ Jones and Arik Armstead. You look at what the Rams did with Tom Brady. I mean, Brady is not able to step up in the pocket when he has Gaines and Donald bearing down on him right up the middle, And then, you look at what the Niners did against, Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and then you look at what the Titans did to Joe Burrow with Denico Autry and Jeffrey Simmons, and how that opens up opportunities for a Harold Landry off the edge. I just feel as though that is the underrated thing here, and that's one thing I think the Niners have that is going to be a problem because at the end of the day, if the Niners can get that interior pressure on Stafford and forcing him to go side to side and roll out, and now all of a sudden you have Nick Bosa, who's going to win speed to power, whether it's against Havenstein or if he's on the other side against Whitworth or Noteboom or whoever, he's going to win his matchups, and that does concern me. So, I mean, how worried are you? First off, how worried are you with DJ Jones the way he's been playing and Armstead? And secondly, do you think that they are going to do enough to, actually make an impact in this game?
Yeah, I mean that's one of that's I think the thing that I'm most concerned about. I mean that 49ers front is absolutely dominating games. I mean, um, they they gave Aaron Rodgers hell last week. He could not get comfortable whatsoever. And the week before, against, like you said, against Dallas, Prescott had the same sort of issues. And quite honestly, when it comes to the Rams' offensive line, you look at that interior. I do like David Edwards, and Brian Allen has had a very good year. He's been a lot better than I thought he was going to be. And Austin Corbett, he's solid, but they did not have a good game against San Francisco in Week 18 at all, and that is the weak point of that Rams offensive line. Is you attack them right in the middle, and teams know that. So I think McVay definitely needs to scheme around that. He needs to do more he needs to do a better job. I think getting those guys moving side to side on just we can just get upfield. So I think you know um, over the last week you saw it. They run a jet sweep to Van Jefferson, and that picks up 12 yards. I think you saw one against San Francisco, and that might have been one of their better runs of the day. So I think McVay needs to utilize that. I think he needs to utilize some of the quick passing game a little bit, and that quick passing game can sort of open up the intermediate crossers and those shots down the field because. I mean, the 49ers secondary is playing very well. Guys like Ambry Thomas are playing pretty well, but those are very inexperienced guys that can be exposed, especially if you have them. They like to play off. So if you can attack them in a quick passing game early and get them to kind of bite up close to the line of scrimmage, those opportunities over the top might come up later in the game. So I think I would like to see McVay sort of run Akers outside the tackles, get the jet sweeps going, and then go up the middle. If you can get those guys moving side to side, and not just focusing on getting up the field, I think that's an advantage.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And, I think the thing that I really enjoy about the Rams is that they have so many ways they can go with the football. And, Stafford, he doesn't have to play hero ball like in Detroit when you're down 7, 14, 21, 24, whatever. He has guys that can pick him up. And so I think, when people have asked me this week on all different shows, why is he not throwing interceptions anymore, which is a really funny question when you ask that. But I think it's really because Sean McVay, after the Week 18 game, likely got with him and just said, we don't need you to do too much. We really don't. Because this defense is playing as well as it has all year. Then you have all the weapons that they have on offense. He has a pick-me-up. You're not going to fumble 4 times in a game. We've discussed that. That was absolutely insane. I've never seen anything like that. And like you mentioned, if you do fumble 4 times, you're at least going to pick up like 1 or 2 of them. You're normally not going to lose all 4. So, if you're banking on that, if you're a Niners fan banking on that, I don't know what you're doing at that point because that's just not a common theme. However, I feel like the reason Stafford hasn't thrown picks in the playoffs is, first off, he's been very clutch. I think that's one of the most misunderstood things about him, and which is why I always looked at the 0-3 playoff record and just like laughed at it because it wasn't, it's such a small sample size. In his first ever playoff game, he's not playoff Romo. In his first ever playoff game, he had 4 touchdowns against the Saints. And if his defense had any sort of semblance of stopping them, it wouldn't have been 45-28 in that game. So, I look at Stafford from the idea that he can operate as a, hero ball guy. But he doesn't need to do that the way everybody has kind of come together and has played down the stretch. I mean, the most interesting... in my opinion anyway, when he is throwing to anybody, it's the dynamic of him and Tyler Higbee to me, because that is really starting to pick up down the stretch, and I don't think many people are pointing it out except for Rams fans.
Yeah, I mean Higbee's played a very good down the stretch. I mean I believe he had 2 touchdowns in the first game against not the first game, but in Week 18 against the 49ers.
Yeah.
He had that big catch on the first drive to put the Rams inside the 10-yard line against Tampa Bay. Yeah, they're him and Stafford are starting to click a little bit, which was just good. If the Rams can get a third option in the passing game behind Kupp and OBJ, that'd be very very good, especially if it's somebody like Higbee who is very talented. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I think you have seen Stafford sort of change his mindset a little bit. I don't know if it's fully changed, but it has changed a little bit to where he doesn't, like he doesn't have to play that hero ball. You see him taking if something's not open, you see him take a sack instead, which is live to play another down. That's all the Rams need right now, and I think he understands that and understands that the Rams since week 13 they rank 5th in the NFL in EPA per play on defense. So I think he understands that his defense can help him out a little bit. He doesn't have to, like you said, make the hero play and play hero ball. If he needs to take a sack, he can take a sack. Who knows? Maybe on the next play, OBJ will come open underneath and get a first down like he did on a 1st and 20 last week against the Bucs. So, yeah, you are starting to see the evolution of Stafford, and if he, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he does throw an interception this game, but as long as it's not the crucial interception, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. And on top of that, I mean, this is a team that's won despite 4 turnovers from others that aren't Stafford. They've won in spite of Stafford's 3 turnovers against, I think it was the Vikings. So they've shown that they can win no matter what. I mean, they can play someone else's game and still win. That's why those moments, those games when they were playing Baltimore and they're winning 20-19, people were like, Baltimore's not even going to make the playoffs. But they're a desperate team. I understand they didn't have Lamar Jackson, but at that point, they're a very desperate team. And, those are the teams that you worry about down the stretch. I mean, they're playing for it all. The Vikings are just as dangerous as anybody at that point in the season when they realize that their entire playoff berth is on the line. Seattle is fighting for whatever they can get at that point in the season. Like, you're playing against, teams that are on like the desperation meters all the way high, and so they're harder games to play. And when you're playing those games down to the wire, some people will look at it as, well, this is why they're going to lose and whatever. But what I will say this is that if it comes down to the fact that the Rams have to win this game, close, it ends up being a close game. Winning games like 20-19 conditioned them for the games like we saw against Tampa. And we've already seen, against the Texans, we were at the Giants game. We've already seen the way they play when, in a blowout. I mean, they could blow teams out. They can win close. It's good to know that you have a team that can essentially win in every single situation. Whereas, like, the Patriots game, for instance, in the first round, when they got down by more than 3 scores, like, you knew Mac Jones, putting him in that position, he's done. Like, he's not going to be able to do that, or, just changing, like, flipping the script. Like, when, like, Tampa went up early on, with Philly, it's like Philly has a chance to win that game if they establish the run early on and keep Tom Brady on the sidelines. But they did not do that. And so it's kind of the deal. It's the same deal with both games this weekend. If the 49ers keep the better quarterback in the game on the sidelines for the majority of the game, and, the Bengals are able to keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline for the majority of the game, both of those teams can win, So I think that's the key here. If you're trying to knock off a better team, a team with a better quarterback, a team that has the equalizer in the deep ball, whatever. Stafford can't throw the deep ball if he's not on the field. So we saw that third quarter in Week 18, Blaine, and I think you pointed it out to me. You're like, it's inexcusable. They had the ball 13 out of the 15 minutes in the third quarter. And, it's ridiculous. So if the Niners, play with that style and the Rams can't stop them, it's going to be a long day at the office. I'm not expecting that, but I'm just saying that they can't allow those type of drives.
It's something that, like, I think, like, I want to bring up is, Ernest Jones will be back this week. I don't know how much he'll play, but I am interested to see I'm interested to see how much he plays and in what capacity and scenarios he plays. Just because he's been so good in coverage when he was healthy. He was probably one of their better coverage linebackers, honestly. And then also he was starting to get a feel for the run game as well, and that's a guy they didn't have in Week 18. And I do wonder, like, if they had him, like, how much of a difference that makes. So I'm interested to see him play this week and how much they use him.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you there. I'm very curious because, I had Sosa on yesterday. We were talking about this, and the Rams are in a weird predicament here because they essentially could hurt themselves by having these reinforcements come back, in a sense. I think the only reinforcement coming back that would absolutely change this game is Sebastian Joseph Day, just because of his presence in the run game. But you could argue right now, you ride the hot hand with Nick Scott. I mean, playoff Scotty's a different animal. I'm not about to put, Taylor Rapp back out there.
No.
And, you could argue with Ernest Jones. I might ride Troy Reader and Traven Howard and have Ernest Jones kind of rotate in and out. Same thing like with Henderson. I might have him rotate in and out. But, there's nobody that's hurt right now. Like, I'm at the point, Blaine, where if Noteboom is healthy, this is just a pec strain. Like, he'll be fine, likely. If Noteboom's healthy, I'll take Noteboom over Whitworth of what he's coming off right now, because Noteboom just had one of the best games of the entire playoffs at left tackle. and that was against Jason Pierre-Paul, who I honestly thought was a pretty bad matchup, to be honest with you, because he does tend to struggle against those, more ferocious, big-bodied, more power than speed type guys off the edge. But he was incredible. It's almost like at this point in the season, you ride the hot hand, and I feel
Yeah.
like the Rams, they could almost do more damage than good, just by bringing these
With
guys
how
in.
with how well Noteboom played, like I'm curious like how much they bring in. They started with it when they started to get hot, and they've gone away from it. I think just because of their personnel, COVID, injuries, et cetera, et cetera. But bringing Noteboom in as an extra tackle in the run game, like I'm interested to see if they do that, considering, like you said, like Noteboom played a really good game last week, and um, I, 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 I think you bring up a good point on riding the hot hand with Noteboom. Like, I would be very shocked if they don't play Whitworth, but I think you bring up a good point there. But get those two guys on the field together and try to like to beat the 49ers, you have to out physical them. Get your physical guys out there, get Noteboom out there, and see what you can do.
Yeah, I just can't stress it enough. When you have momentum, you don't want to ruin that in any way. It's kind of like the same thing. If you have that weird superstition where, well, the Rams won when I wore this jersey with these socks with
Dude,
this hat.
I've been ordering from the same pizza place the last 2 weeks. Like, and I'm ordering from the pizza place again this week. So like, I'm ordering the same kind of pizza. Like, I'm wearing the same jersey. I haven't washed it for 3 weeks. Like, yeah, I'm right there with you on superstitions.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because everyone in the chat like caught on that since the playoffs started, I started wearing my Burgess jersey,
Yeah,
and I'm not allowed to wear another jersey now. Like the
yeah,
the chat caught on, and they're like, "Oh, Jake, you better wear that Burgess jersey." And I'm like, well, I love repping my guy, but I want to wear a Cam jersey or Van or something. And now it's like, nope,
yeah.
you can't. You have to wear Burgess the rest of time. So, that's how that's gonna go. And Blaine, we're going to be, a little bit of a problem here. If they win the Super Bowl, I'm going to be stuck wearing the Burgess jersey forever at this point, until they
Right,
lose.
right,
So,
right.
uh,
Yeah.
nothing against Burgess, of course. But, yeah, I think this game, I mean, there's a reason why this game is on as the nightcap, so to speak, because it is the better matchup. I mean, let's not knock the Kansas City Bengals game because I think you and I both have found the Bengals incredibly fun to watch, but you know, and they won. I mean, like let's not forget they beat Kansas City earlier in the year or a little bit later in the year down the stretch. But I just kind of I feel like this Rams 49ers game is just massive. Like it's bigger than New England and the Chiefs in 2018 AFC title game. Like I really believe that. I feel like this is one of the biggest title games we've seen. I understand, the Packers Tampa last year. This has that extra dose of these fan bases hate each other. These teams hate each other. You have just that whole tension about SoFi Stadium, the tickets. There's so many storylines. The 0-6, the heated rivalry going back, a long ways. I mean, we're talking about, the Rams were great every year, and then they would lose to the Niners, and the Niners would win the division, and that would be it, in the 80s and whatnot. So, I mean, this rivalry is legit, and so I think this is one of the best, if not the best, NFC title game in quite some time. So, I'm very excited for this game. Do you have a final score prediction on it?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be close. But I do think you kind of just hearing the players talk this week, you kind of hear that McVay's tired of hearing the Shanahan's in his head. These guys, you hear Raheem Morris come out today say, I want to win a championship for Aaron Donald. Like that honestly, it got dusty in my apartment when I was reading that. I started to tear up a little bit. That was some powerful stuff. Um, so I have the Rams winning this game 23-20. Would not be surprised if Matt Gay kicks a game winner again. But I think I'm going 23-20 Rams.
Interesting. I got 27-17. I think the Rams have a late touchdown that kind of settles it, puts it out. I think the 49ers end up with the last possession, trying, they're down 10, just trying to make something happen. That's kind of how I see it. Wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a blowout on either side, to be honest with you. I mean, that's the weird thing is that there is a worst case scenario where the Rams can't run the ball, Matthew Stafford turns the ball over, and the 49ers, they can't stop the 49ers from running the ball. Garoppolo isn't put in any sort of position where he has to throw it, and the Niners end up winning big, you know. But there's
Yeah.
also a scenario here where the Niners can't run the ball all of a sudden after being very confident they could. The Rams are able to run the ball. The Rams are able to throw the ball, and then Jimmy Garoppolo is down, by 20 whatever points and he can't come back. So I just feel like that would, kind of compound on top of each other. I feel like we're way more likely to see a Rams blowout win than a Rams blowout loss, but I'm saying really just the game script and how things could go. It could go either way. I think 27-17 is fair for both teams. I think the Rams are the better team. If they play their game, bottom line is they're going to win. The thing that leads me to believe this could ever even be a blowout is because we've never seen the Rams offense like we saw like the Bills against the Patriots in the first round. I still feel like we haven't seen them at their best. And let's be honest here. It's not realistic to assume the Rams are going to score 7 out of 7 times. I mean, that's just not, right?
Yeah.
But, we haven't even seen them on the level of scoring the way, that 2018, 2017, team was. I mean, they were scoring around 27 points per game, not in the 30s, not 31, whatever. So I feel like we might get to that point where, say they win this game, they go to the Super Bowl, they play the Chiefs, in my opinion, they're going to have to score like that potentially and to match that firepower, but they might do it this week. And, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I really feel like this offense, as great as they were, that Tampa game, they had a chance to just absolutely run them out of the building to the point where you would have seen Blaine Gabbert in there sooner than later. And I'm sorry. I mean, they literally needed, Cam Akers fumbles at the 1 yard line. You have all these crazy fumbles, and I think that's what stopped them. But that
Yeah, I
offense was
mean,
clicking.
without those four fumbles, I think it's pretty clearly like a 40-20 type game. Like
Yeah.
it's not close, and the Rams coming to the NFC Championship game after blowing out the Cardinals and blowing out the defending Super Bowl champions. Like that game, like I mean, if Cam Akers scores a touchdown there at the 1 yard line instead of fumbling, it's 27-3 going to the half, and then they score a touchdown on I think the opening driver early in the second half, and then there you go, it's 34-10 or whatever, and then two field goals later, I make it 40. So I think the Rams, like without those four turnovers, I think the Rams likely hit 40 in that game.
I agree. And that's really where my mind was at. Now, with everyone talking about the attendance, and I've never been an attendance buff, but I get it now. It means more than ever. I don't think it changes any of the play on the field because I think the Rams have already proven, obviously it sucks to have, your home rated, and that will change over time, hopefully. But even if the Niners fans show up 70-30, the Rams have already gone 8-2 on the road. They're used to playing in these environments. They're used to working on a silent count. It's sad that they even have to do that in their home in an NFC title game, no less, to go to the Super Bowl. But I mean, at the same time, I just feel like they're ready for anything, and that's the good thing when you see other teams around the NFL and you're like, they're dominant at home, but man, they struggle on the road. The Rams weren't one of those teams. They were better on the road than at home, so now they're 8-2 on the road. I believe they're 6-3 at home, if I'm not mistaken. I feel really good about them to be able to, combat whatever type of attendance that we see there. I just think at the end of the day, it's not really going to matter. It's not going to change the effects on the field. I think if anything, I think the Rams will look at it like if the Rams fans come out and it's not super loud when they take the field on offense, then hey, it's a win, and we don't have to operate on a silent count, but I would imagine that they're expecting to anyway.
Yeah, I think after what happened in Week 18, I think they'll be more prepared for like after the game. It kind of sounded like they weren't really expecting that and weren't prepared for it really. It was an adjustment they had to make in game. I would assume that they prepare for it this week, and after the vivid seats rumors of it being 65-35 or whatever, they're going to be ready for it. Like you said, like it's disappointing. It's the
Yeah.
NFC Championship game. Like I don't want to make this an LA St. Louis type thing, or show up and you're not. I don't want. That's a conversation for a different day. But um, but yeah, it'll be disappointing if it's a sea of red in SoFi. But I think, like you said, I think they'll be more prepared for it this time than they were in Week 18, and I don't think they'll let it phase them.
Yeah, it's a bummer to see certain fans, basically sell their tickets to the Niners fans. I've seen that already. But don't you kind of laugh a little bit or smirk a little bit when you see like, oh, well, they're projected to have more Niners fans. How the hell do you know? What are you? Because the last time I checked, when you buy tickets to any game, there is not a poll at the end like, hey, what fan are you? Like, I don't think that there's a poll. um
No, but they can get the demographics like on like where the tickets being bought. Like if 60% of tickets being bought of their tickets being bought in Northern California or whatever, like
well, yeah, that makes sense,
or
but I think a
or
lot
or
of
or, or, or if that person has a history of buying 49ers tickets, like they can see that kind of stuff.
true. I don't know, it sounds funny.
But I do agree that like how do they know like the Rams when it all first came out, they had that location restriction where like only people from the Los Angeles area could buy these tickets. So like let's assume that like 80% of those were Rams fans, and then um and it's and those were only the pre-sale tickets, and those sold out. So like let's assume those are mostly Rams fans, and now these tickets that are on the secondary market are 50, like close to 50-50, or maybe a little more in favor of Niners fans. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it is a majority of Rams fans in there, and it's being overblown a little bit. But we'll see. I'm definitely interested to see what the turnout's like, especially with what we've seen on Rams Twitter this week with people coming together and getting people in seats and all that. I'm interested to see what the turnout's like.
Yeah, I mean, Kelly Stafford buying all those tickets for everybody. And then you have JB. I don't know if you saw, he's giving away some
Yeah.
tickets as well. You had some Rams fans. Shout out to Holden. He did a nice job organizing that for that kid AJ, who's a huge Stafford fan. It's been really cool to see the fan base kind of come together, and I just wish we could get the Stafford Army in SoFi, man. I would love to see
Yeah.
all the diehard Stafford fans from Detroit who have stuck with him. Not the people that clowned him, but the true fans that are rooting for him. You don't even have to switch to the Rams, in my opinion. I mean, it's, some people did, but, as long as you're rooting for him, I would just love to see those people in attendance. I think that'd be awesome. I really do, to see a bunch of 9 jerseys everywhere, even if they were Lions jerseys. I just
Yeah,
think it would
no,
be so cool.
that would be awesome. There's like 20% Lions jerseys in
Yeah.
there, Lions Stafford jerseys, like 50% Rams jerseys, and then like the rest Niners. Like that would be really cool.
Yeah. Well, we know Sean Payton is rooting against the Rams. I don't know if you
Yeah,
saw that. That was
shocker, shocker.
it's just like, I'm surprised you would say that in your exit interview after
Yeah.
retiring. The fact that they're still in his head, but I mean, he'll probably be back to coaching. But any final thoughts on this game before we kind of wrap it up with the last game?
Just like I'm a little nervous, obviously, excited for it. I think it's gonna be a great game. Could go down as one of those classics. Hopefully not a repeat of the 1989 championship game that ended 30-3 or whatever. Like really,
Yeah.
really don't want that. But I think
No.
it's gonna be a close game. I think it's gonna be. I think the Rams are. I think the Rams kind of are. I think they're really focused this week. They want to get the monkey off their back, and hopefully they do, and I think they will.
Yeah, I think they do as well. And I think they're going to be playing the Chiefs, because now we got Chiefs Bengals, and I'm curious on your thoughts because, I look at the Chiefs game, and I think really it comes down to the offensive line, because I think, the Bengals have everything that you would want. They just need an offensive line. I mean, I'm still okay. Like, people, will bash, like Chidobe Awuzie and guys like that. I mean, he has struggled. Don't get me wrong, but he is not the worst corner in the league. And so I think you can win with guys like that. I think Logan Wilson, your guy that I still regret trading you in Dynasty. He's a hell of a player. Made a huge big time play against Ryan Tannehill last week to kind of put him in this situation. I just think they've gotten some really good contributions out of, guys like Von Bell and Jesse Bates. Kind of looking at this, I feel as though the Chiefs have more weapons, all around, and they have the offense. I feel like the Bengals can compete, though. They've won before, and I feel like the Bengals can compete. I just am so terrified about that offense. And if the offensive line, because here's the thing, it's the NFL, and I keep putting out this narrative out there because it's real. It's the NFL, and who's to say that Isaiah Prince and Hakeem Adeniji all step up in the moment, have their best game ever, and Burrow has all the time in the world to throw? I might pick the Bengals if he gets protection in this one, but I'm going to pick the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think it could be a close first two quarters, and then things start breaking down for Cincinnati. Like I think that their defense has played really well, but I don't think it's a strong suit by any means, and that offensive line has been a liability. So I think those weaknesses will start to show themselves as the game goes on. Um, I've been really impressed with Cincinnati. Nobody expected them to be here. Joe Burrow has put that team on his back. I mean, when people talk about this next generation of quarterbacks, Josh Allen gets brought up, Patrick Mahomes gets brought up, Justin Herbert gets brought up, and Joe Burrow, like, he kind of gets left out, and he shouldn't be. Like, he played at an MVP caliber level this year. He put that team on his back, and he has him in the AFC Championship game, which is absolutely incredible. But I mean, you go back to the first game, Kansas City, I think, was up 28-17 at the half, and then Cincinnati climbed back, and they were able to get the win. I don't see that happening again. I think the Chiefs are clearly the better team, and I have 41-27 Chiefs.
Okay, yeah, so I have 34-24. I feel like it's one of those games where Burrow might end up with over 400 yards, but I feel like they might go for it on fourth down and get stopped in the red zone a few times or once. I just could see it being that type of game. The offensive line is definitely concerning, but like I said, if they do have that game where they come out and they just balls to the wall, they get it, they protect him. I mean, it almost makes you wonder if giving up 9 sacks lights a fire under this offensive line. The whole week, all anyone's saying about the Bengals is they have no chance because of your unit. Come out, ball out. You and I both like Adeniji coming out of Kansas. We'll see what he can do, Prince can do on that right side. To me, that is the biggest issue. That right side needs to be bottled up. They need to do a better job of protecting Burrow. The interior pressure from Chris Jones is definitely going to be an issue for me. And then you have the outside rush, from a guy that I think was one of the best acquisitions of the season in Melvin Ingram. I mean, the way he played for the Steelers, they trade him away. He goes to the Chiefs. I mean, he was an absolute steal for them. And honestly, the Steelers trading him away to the Chiefs just seemed really counterproductive. I mean, it felt like they were going to end up playing him anyway at some point, which they did. It just felt like one of those things that you don't do. But, I think the real X factor in this game for the Chiefs is Jerick McKinnon, because the way he has performed the last few weeks, he has been a guy that stepped up. There were injuries to CEH and Darrell Williams. And I know Darrell Williams is, he played a little bit. Or not played, but he practiced a little bit this week. But I'm still concerned about that injury. I'm still concerned about him getting back into the rhythm. Whereas I think, you look at Jerick McKinnon, he can help you in the passing game. He can help you as a runner. He had the most snaps of any running back last week for the Chiefs. And on top of it, CEH was actually able to run the ball pretty decently against the Bills. So I don't know. I look at this. Jerick McKinnon seems like the guy, if they're getting pressure from Trey Hendrickson and all those guys, then I do feel as though he could be a dump off option and really just work this defense, because I think he's a guy that we've forgotten about a little bit because he kind of flamed out in San Francisco, had a really nice start to his young promising career with the Minnesota Vikings after Dalvin Cook got hurt. Then they let him go. And then the 49ers got him. He really never was able to do anything there. So he goes to the Chiefs, and he's finally getting an opportunity, and I feel like Okay, this guy's definitely a name to watch in this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like Jerry McKinnon he has played really well, and I agree. I think he's an X factor in this game. I think the Chiefs just have this abundance of weapons. I mean, you can focus on Tyreek Hill, you can focus on Travis Kelce, but they have guys like McKinnon and Pringle and Hardman that can step up in the moment. And
Pringle.
I look at a guy like Pringle that has really become a solid number two option for them behind or number three option in the receiving game behind Kelsey and Hill. So yeah, I think McKinnon is definitely a guy to watch there, and like I said, I like Pringle, and I just the Bengals defense has played really respectfully up to this point. They played really well. They they picked off Ryan Tannehill 3 times last week, and that was a big reason why they won. But I just don't see how they can bottle up this Chiefs offense.
No, I don't either. I think it's going to be a tough day at the office. And I think the Chiefs don't have to run the ball. I think the Bengals, if they're able to run the ball with Joe Mixon, who is one of the better running backs in football, if they could run the ball with Joe Mixon, and it's going to be hard because that offensive line just is not very good. But if the offensive line balls out and they're able to run the ball with Mixon, they keep Mahomes on the sideline. He gets about 7 or 8 possessions to, Burrow getting 9 or 10 or whatever. I tend to think that they have a shot, but I just have a weird feeling that they're not going to try to run the ball. I feel like they're just going to, they're going to call it like it is. They're going to just go in and think this is going to be a shootout and, go balls to the wall throwing the ball because they have abandoned the run, in the last 2 games. Joe Mixon, he did start off the game with a 25 plus yard, reception. And I feel like doing that again might help. You have guys like Uzama who have had monster games for like no apparent reason. He's a guy, I think, Tyler Boyd is somebody I've really looked at as an X factor in this one because everyone is going to put their attention on Jamar Chase. He had over 200 yards against the Chiefs the last time he played them. Higgins, the game before had over 200 yards, I think. So, or, close to 200. So, I feel like with that, you look at Boyd, he's the odd man out here. He's the guy that you probably end up leaving open by accident. And he's just as good as those three, to be honest with you. When he gets open, he can make plays. He's a great route runner, great hands, can work in the slot. I really think he could be a problem for the Chiefs in this one. And so I think he's the X factor. But it's going to come down, can the Chiefs, can they dominate the trenches? Because if they do, then it's over. If we don't get that last hurrah offensive line performance that we are not really saying is going to happen, but if it happened, it would change the game. If we don't get that, which we're likely not going to assume that a bad offensive line is all of a sudden going to block well is kind of ridiculous. But if we really don't, I don't see how the Chiefs lose this game.
Yeah, yeah, I'm in the same boat. You look at the Bengals, and like you said, I don't think they can abandon the run. I'm not saying they need to make this a ball control game because that's not their style, but they can't turn this into Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes and expect this to go like 45-41. Like they can't make it that type of game. I think if they're balanced with the run game and feed Jamar Chase, feed T Higgins, feed those guys to move the chains, but keep Mixon going to keep things balanced and keep the Chiefs keep the Chiefs defense guessing. That's a group that they started the season really bad, and then that like you said earlier that addition of Melvin Ingram really helped them out later on in the year. But the Chiefs defense I don't think is anything to be scared of. And I think it's something that I think the Bengals can move the ball on them, and if they're able to run the ball and keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline just a little bit longer, I think they'll have a good chance. And I think my X factor for the Bengals will be CJ Uzoma. He's had a really good postseason. He's really stepped up as a solid option for Joe Burrow, especially in the red zone. So yeah, that's who I'll be watching in that one.
So you and I both have the same thing: Rams and Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Real quick, and we'll wrap this up because I don't want to go too much into a Super Bowl that may not even happen. It could be 49ers and Bengals, then we look like fools. Um, but if that is the Super Bowl, you know, all right, let's just start off by this. Will we see an Aaron Donald touchdown if that's the Super Bowl?
Man, I hope so. I hope it's ball at the 1 yard line, and like you and I were talking the other day, get Aaron Donald back there in the backfield and pull a William Fridge Perry in like the '85 Bears. Why not?
I mean, I don't know who's stopping him. You give him 1 yard, you give him that kind of head of steam, a little bit of a boost to run it, and then I mean, a direct snap to Aaron Donald would probably still work. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
I mean, how funny would that be? A direct snap to Donald and he just runs over somebody.
That'd
I
be hilarious.
mean,
Or what if he threw a touchdown pass to Odell Beckham Jr.? Like everybody's expecting him to run it up the middle. He pops a jump pass over the top.
or he throws it to Whitworth, and Whitworth
Yeah,
retires with a touchdown in the Super Bowl to win the Super
that'd be
Bowl.
nice. That'd be
Yeah,
nice.
from Aaron Donald. That would be a
Yeah.
trivia question. Andrew
Yeah.
Whitworth caught one touchdown pass in his entire career, and it was in the Super Bowl. Who threw it? And it'd be people like, oh, Matthew Stafford easily. And be like, nope, Aaron
That,
Donald.
that, 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 that might be just as tough as a trivia question as who caught the first touchdown in the Rams Buccaneers divisional playoff game. Guess I would bet Kendall Blanton would not be anybody's first guess.
No, no, they wouldn't. And all I thought about as soon as that happened was who bet Kendall Blanton first touchdown score?
Yeah, right.
Because it was like 9,000 odds. I mean, you're getting $90 on a $1 bet. That's insane. It ended up being it was 4,500 for the odds if you bet on him to score. Period. Which is very interesting. It almost makes you wonder if you want to do it again in case they just go with Blanton again. I mean,
Yeah.
that was quite the thing there. I was not expecting that, and no look pass nonetheless. I mean, maybe I was more so expecting that, but so yeah, I mean, I think doing that with Aaron Donald would be awesome. I would also like to see them get Brandon Powell involved in the offense, but you know, we'll see. I doubt that happens. I really, before we go, I really want to see in this game, I want to see them use jet motion and jet sweeps more. I think really keep a very athletic linebacker group, keep them on their toes. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but the best way to go against a linebacker group that has Dre Greenlaw, not Frank, but Fred Warner and Aziz Al-Shair, who are all athletic in their own right, is get them off balance. And you do that by having one guy come across and you get that motion and keep them all going that way and hit them the other way. And I think that's a big thing that I think would open up the rest of the offense. I don't think we've seen everything that's in Sean McVay's hat yet. I will not say that they've used all of their tricks yet. So I'm curious if they use them.
I agree. Like, how much do you think? Like, I don't want to say he was holding back, but like, do you think he was keeping anything hidden? Like, with the idea that in week 18, like, do you think he was keeping anything hidden with the idea that maybe they see the 49ers again in the playoffs? Like,
I mean, it makes you wonder, they didn't break out the OBJ pass until Arizona. So and you know what my dad said when that happened? He's like, why did you do it against Arizona? You didn't need that. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
he's not wrong.
Yeah. Like I was kind of bummed too, cause that put it out there, but I mean, hey, I could see a double pass. Think about it. Guys that could throw the ball. Cup, Akers, Atwell, but he's obviously not available, and OBJ, and Matthew Stafford, and the punter, Johnny Hacker.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways they can go. I'm just hoping they're not in a position where they have to do a fake punt or anything like that. But I wouldn't rule out any crazy hat pull crazy moment or anything like that. I would just love to see Brandon Powell on the offense and get a jet sweep or something like that. But I doubt we'll see that.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a dynamic player. I mean, like, this is why you don't draft a punt returner in the second round, because you pick up Brandon Powell later on as a free agent, like for dirt cheap. Like, he's been so good, probably the best returner since Farrah Cooper had a really good year that one year. I mean, yeah, he's been really good and he's flipped the field a couple times. So I'm interested to see like you said, it probably won't happen this week. But I'm excited. Like next year, does he get more involved in the offense as someone running a jet sweep and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this has been a lot of fun, guys. I think we're gonna head on out of here. But for those of you who are just joining us, thank you so much for joining. Period. Be sure to subscribe and like. Also, drop a comment. And check out downtownrams.com. You can follow Blaine Grisak over at bgrisakdtr. You can also follow him. He mainly runs the Downtown Rams Twitter at Downtown Rams. Once again, appreciate you guys tuning in. I will be back tomorrow. We'll be doing a full breakdown of the Rams and Niners game in great detail. That will be just me. And then we have Alexis Kraft on Saturday. So again, thank you guys. You guys take care. Be good people. I will see you guys soon.